Quintessential 90s. I'm Clarice, your host with Studio Espresso, and today it's my pleasure to introduce Niko Bolas, who's worked with Neil Young for many, many years. And today we're going to talk about Rockin' in the Free World, which was actually released last month in '89. So technically it's 90s, right? So, hey, Niko.
Hi, how are
Hi
you?
there. I'm good. How are you?
I'm really
Tell me
good.
a bit about how long you've known Neil Young. You know, poet, godfather of grunge, um, environmentalist, anti-war activist, an incredible songwriter.
All of those, yeah, and a really nice guy.
Yeah, that helps.
I've known him since 1983, I think. The first time I met him, Danny Korchmar produced a record called Landing on Water, and he hired me to engineer it and mix it. And Neil and I have been working together since then, pretty much, off and on. You know, he works with a lot of people. It just he changes engineers and musicians like Al Schmidt changes ties. I mean, just whatever fits the day. So you just are glad to be there when you're there, and you work as hard as you can.
So, what is he like in the studio? You work with him on specifically this song. What was that like, Niko?
Which song? Freedom or Rockin' in the Free World?
Rocking in the Free World, yeah.
That was it happened pretty fast. You know, he was touring with a band that he called the Stray Dogs. It was Chad Cromwell, Rick Rosas, Frank Sampedro, Larry Craig was out on that tour. And they had gone to Australia, and they came back, and they were really fired up, and we were in the barn and we cut it. Rockin' in the Free World actually was something that Poncho had come up with, Frank Sampedro. He used to I think when they came off the road in Europe, or when they were in Europe, he started singing that line, And from what little I remember, Neil turned it into a song, as he does. He could turn the weather news into a song. And we cut it. And then the most fun we have was when we were cutting it. I remember the take that went down. We kept trying to get Rick Rosas to pump eighth notes in the tag, and he was always just grooving. Rick was so lost in groove. And I remember Chad Cromwell just started pounding. As soon as Rick walked in front of the drums, he started kicking his foot in eighth notes, just driving him, screaming eighths, so that Rick would start pumping with the foot. And that's how that drum part happened. It was really Chad just driving Rick into where he was supposed to go.
That familiar beat, that was it,
yeah,
right?
That's all Cromwell. That's Chad Cromwell. He's a Memphis boy who he can be really technical when he needs to be. That's why he's so famous and popular in Nashville. He can do all of that stuff with clicks, without clicks, whatever. But when it comes down to just a hard groove, that's when he really would come on. And it's especially apparent the beginning of the 90s. I mean, the whole grunge thing, that happened after that album. Everybody, a lot of those bands, especially in Seattle, Neil toured with Pearl Jam, and he was good friends with Kurt, and was really tragically hurt when we lost Kurt.
Kurt Cobain, yes.
Yeah. So, there's a reason that a lot of people pay homage to Neil for that. It's not that Neil does anything different. Neil just does whatever he's feeling in the moment. And he's usually feeling a moment about 5 years ahead of other people. That's what happens to him.
Yeah, amazing. So that song is a lot of guitars. And you're, of course, really well known for doing vocals as well. So tell me a little bit about the guitars on that song, and then the vocals.
The funniest thing about that song is I tried my best to ruin it. When we were working on that song, I was way into Van Halen. And I was way into the Oberheim synth that they had on Jump and all the stuff that Eddie was writing. So I was convinced we had to have big keyboards in the chorus. And, you know, Neil let us try every idea under the sun to make it something that it wasn't. And finally, he just said, that's it. This is the way this record goes. And we mixed it all in one day. We mixed it in his, at Redwood Digital in the back room with a pair of big Altecs, his green board and the brass board, you know, a tube console, just jury rigging stuff together to get all the tracks to play back. And it was loud, as you can imagine. And then all of a sudden we were done. We played it back and we went, that's it.
Where was this recorded? You said the barn, but
barn on Neil's ranch on the so there's Redwood Digital. The ranch, he doesn't have the ranch anymore, but at that time, 30 years ago or whatever, he had a really nice big ranch up in Northern California, and a lot of it he just kept agricultural, and he was rebuilding a redwood forest because well, when you were talking about his environmental stuff, one of the things he put a lot of money into was a stream that ran through his property at the time was redwood trees, and they had been felled and left and littered at the turn of the century when they were logging. The loggers didn't care even back then. Right. So Neil took it upon himself to restore the creek from property line to property line, cleaned up all that was there, restored trees, you know, replanted, did all this stuff. I mean, it was a fortune. And he did it just because he genuinely believed, and I genuinely believe him, that he felt he didn't own the property. He was given the right to be responsible for it for as long as he could.
Yes.
And so that was his duty to do that. So on the other side of the ranch, he built a big barn. And originally it was going to be for equipment. Oh, and when they were in construction, we walked in, and just the sound of our footsteps on the ground, we all looked at each other and we went, man, this sounds great. We got to cut tracks in here before you fill it up. So they got, the next thing I know, the record plant showed up. Gary and all those guys showed up with the record plant remote truck, parked it outside, and we were tracking. And that's how we cut CSNY there that way. We cut Freedom like that. We cut a bunch of Blue Notes like that. That barn was on a lot of records. It was actually also, if you see the cover of Ragged Glory, John Hanlon recorded there, and that's what that photo is. That wide angle picture. That's the barn.
So awesome. You mentioned, you know, he was one of the founders of Farm Aid with Willie Nelson. And
Willie, yeah, oh yeah.
Right. So yeah, he really has his heart in it. I put some references in the chat section for people to hopefully get, which there's a really cool worldwide jam of Rockin' in the Free World.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's an anthem. Cool. It's a real anthem for not just one country, but the world, really. And so that's pretty cool. So it's still, I mean, and there's been so many covers all throughout the decade with Pearl Jam, with you name it. There's you just look that up on YouTube. Also,
every time I turn around, some politician is using it for something. You know, it's just.
And then there's that, which was interesting, right? This last election, we had two very different candidates who were kind of using that song.
Well, only one of them had permission, trust me.
Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, yeah. So anyhow, in the chat section, you can also check out Nix.com.
Yeah, N-E-E-K-S.
All about Niko or at Studio Espresso. And of course, neilyoung.warnerrecords.com, you know, has every song that you can imagine. And
if you go to Neil Young Archives, look up the Neil Young Archives. That's Neil's site, and it's awesome. Incredible. It's got a big filing cabinet, and you can just click on the drawers and open them and go through the years and find endless amounts of music. And he's still, you know, he's building it as we speak. It's continually updated with film and outtakes. It's pretty phenomenal. It's really cool. That's
talk a little bit about where is that?
That's the Sony soundstage.
Okay.
We were doing The record wound up being called Story Tone, and it was right after he went through a big upheaval in his family life, and he wrote a bunch of songs. And so what we did was he came to Los Angeles, and I asked him to leave all his instruments at home, just show up with lyrics. And Lon Cohen, who has an amazing collection of instruments, and he does he rentals and stuff here in Los Angeles, but I've known him forever. And I told Lon, I said, do me a favor and build me Neil Young's dream pawn shop in Studio B at Capitol. And I got Al Schmidt to come and engineer with Steve Genowick, of course. And we set up, Lon had arrived with like 25 random weird instruments, from mando cellos to baritone ukuleles, to regular ukuleles, to the story tone piano, to a B3, to a grand, to an upright, several Martins, a bunch of Gibsons, just all this stuff. And we scattered it all around. And Al was in the control room with Steve, and Neil was out there, and there was 2 microphones. And so I said, okay, whatever instrument you pick up, if it feels like whatever song you have in front of you, if it feels right, just sing it, and we'll cut it, we'll get the demo, and we're done. We're not going in there. I said, that's because the idea was to stay out of the control room and just be in the music. And so I pointed at Al and I said, he's made more of these than you and I combined. So we'll let him deal with the recording and just sing. And Neil dumped his guts in 2 days. He did all 10 titles on different instruments. He'd sit down and pick up something. It felt about right. I put the mic in front of him and wait.
Yeah.
They were all, first take, just here's from the heart, So he left for Australia and toured it. Did a tour with Crazy Horse at the time. And I took those demos and I gave 4 to Michael Bearden and 6 to Chris Walden, who's the arranger of, he can move heaven and earth with a string section. He's incredible. And they came back with these charts. And so then when Neil came back from Australia, we went to the Sony Soundstage and to Capitol and had him sing live with the orchestra and cut these charts, which he'd never heard. All we knew is that these guys had written stuff in the same key, and each guy had gone to Neil's house and spent a morning with him going over what he meant, what the song was like, arranger stuff. It's mystery to me. It's a black art. But they did an amazing job, and that's what that photo's from, is the day we cut it.
And the album's called
Story Tone. Yeah. And that day that we had 90 pieces live on the floor. And
let's go back to Rocking in a Free World. Tell me a little bit about the vocals on that song. I mean, does it take a long time? Was it days?
No. There's
no.
Vocals for Neil is what happens when it happens. You put the vocal mic right in front of the drums so he can feel the beat. And I think his headphones at that time were a couple of Sun PA columns. He never wears phones, and he sings it and he means it. And when everything happens at once and he meant it and he got it all out, that's the one.
Why do you think that song resonates today? Why is it relevant still? I mean, that was recorded 20 years ago.
I hate to say it, but it's 30 years ago.
Oh, sorry. Well, actually,
I'm dating myself here. Yeah, it was a long time ago. It's still valid because it's still valid. I mean, who doesn't want to rock in a free world? Yeah, that's just that sums up everybody from somebody, just learning the guitar, wanting to play those chords, they're righteous, to the expression and the emotion of being in a free world. And it just
what can you say about Neil? I mean, any stories, anything about him as a person that obviously he's this sort of messenger. He's an incredible writer. What is he like as a person? You said he's a nice guy in the studio, easy to work with.
Oh yeah, he's what you see is what you get. There's never when he walks in the door, you're there for a reason. You're there to make a record. you know,
Right.
and when you go out to eat, you're there for a reason, and you laugh and you joke and you eat. But work is work. He's very, very focused, has an incredible, I stopped taking notes when we would cut, because his memory's better than me trying to read my handwriting. Um,
That's
and
funny.
that can be intimidating sometimes, because I don't remember anything. I just know, man, that felt great. You know, what just happened? I'm very much in the moment, and whoosh, it goes by and I'm looking at whatever is happening now. Whereas Neil has this computer that catalogs, but he has an ability to put into simple words really deep emotions, you know, and the way the phrases go together, they can fit a range of situations in anybody's life, but they'll mean something really important to each person, you know, and that's why sometimes you don't want to know what it was written about. You want to know what it did to you, what it feels like to you, and a lot of times he's written the soundtrack to a lot of people's lives, you know, that have followed him lyrically. But I can guarantee you, every word he sings, he's lived through it, and he means it when he says it.
Yeah. Authentic poet.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah. So, Nico, say a little bit about what you're doing now. What, or just some artists, some other artists that you work with in the 90s or just recently.
Well, the last couple of years, my real big production passion has been the Mavericks. I've done 6 records with them out of Nashville, and Raul Malo is one of the greatest singers I've ever had the chance to even be in the room with. And I love working on their music, and they're a great band. They're a real band. They're first take guys. You know, they come in meaning it. They drop it on the floor, and then you go back and pick up pieces. But whatever happened is what you wind up using, and I love that. You can get 9 guys live, all trying to really be great. That's a real gift for me. I love it. This last year, because of the lockdown,
Awesome.
obviously I've been here mixing quite a bit. You know, I just started the year with a record from India Bear. Had a really, really good time. I've mixed, I don't know, half a dozen albums here over the course of COVID. And then I'm helping Neil do his archives, that website. I go through, I've either remixed or edited a bunch of outtakes and a couple of records that were lost, that never got mixed, that we resurfaced, and some bootlegs. He did a really clever thing. He got a bunch of bootlegs and found the original tapes from those shows and released what was a bootleg from the actual tapes. And I mixed all those, and we tried to stay true to the moment, you know, stuff that was shot on video. We try to make it sound like you're in the club. You know, we didn't spend a lot of time cleaning as much as we tried to find stuff that felt great and keep that. You know, the big goal with Neil is whatever happened in the moment is what he wants to share. So that's why you're not going to find yourself overdubbing vocals, or, you know, it's very rare that you are making a record. You're mostly
Right.
capturing a performance.
Live, mostly it's a
Oh,
live,
yeah.
he's a live artist. And this is tough time for artists for not being able to go live, to perform for their fans and Hartford fans as well. I mean, the virtual stuff is happening, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's very frustrating, because, you know, live performers, they're the only way that a lot of my friends that are authentic performers, and I'm very blessed to know a lot of them, their battery recharger is playing, you know, and you know, playing to a screen is just not the same thing. It's just not. And
But we'll get through it.
oh, we already have. We will.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be a resurgence. I can feel it already. People are itching to play and itching to record.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I really am proud of, not just with Neil, but with most of the artists that I have gotten to be involved with, is quarantunes. You know, people are in quarantine and they do all these tunes, and they just put them out there because they make music, and if they're not getting paid, it doesn't matter. I still just make music, and they put it out there for people to get. And a lot of people have been woodshedding. They're playing better than ever because they've been home practicing.
it's good time for creativity, for writing, for producing.
Yeah.
And you guys in the studio, you work with files, so you can do a lot, especially with mixing.
I've
Um,
spent the last year learning as much as I can about Atmos and immersive sound. You know, take the time. I mean, you're going to be home anyways. So take
yeah.
the time to go to school and study. And I tell my assistants, go learn new shit. You know, you
Well,
go download every plugin, the trial of it, and see what it does. You know,
Nico,
that's what I do.
you're amazing. Thank
Oh,
you for
thank
the
you so
invitation.
much.
Keep on rocking in the free world.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll